On the morning of her wedding, a 28-year-old Ukrainian woman was shot dead in Dubai. The investigation established that the murder was ordered by the 3 official wives of her billionaire fiancé. The 3 women's lives were structured according to a strict and predictable schedule. Fatima, Layla, and Amira were the wives of Khalid al-Jassim, a 52-year-old construction magnate whose company built dozens of skyscrapers that defined the look of modern Dubai. Each of them lived in her own luxurious villa in the exclusive gated community of Emirates Hills, received a monthly allowance of $50,000, and had a staff of servants. Their worlds never intersected. Khalid spent exactly 10 days a month with each wife and her children, following a strict rotation established many years ago. This arrangement ensured peace and stability in his complex family. Fatima, the first and oldest wife, was 48 years old. She married Khalid when she was 18, and he was just a budding entrepreneur. She bore him 4 children, the eldest of whom was already 29. Fatima considered herself the guardian of family traditions and wielded considerable informal influence in the clan. Layla, the 39-year-old second wife, was the daughter of one of Khalid's former business partners. She had given birth to 3 children and was known for her impulsive nature and love of social life. The third wife, Amira, was the youngest. At 33, she had 2 small children, a law degree from the University of London that she had never used, and a reputation as the most calculating and intellectual of the 3. For 15 years, they coexisted within this system, each in her own golden cage, jealously guarding her status and that of her children. This fragile balance was disrupted in early 2023. At an international business forum in Dubai, Khalid met Oksana Kovalenko. She was 28 years old and worked as a senior marketer at a large international PR company. Her team was promoting Khalid's new flagship project, a 60-story residential complex in the Dubai Marina area. Oksana had come to Dubai from Kiev 3 years earlier. She was ambitious, intelligent, spoke English fluently, and was rapidly advancing her career. Khalid, accustomed to the submissiveness and traditional lifestyle of his wives, was impressed by her energy, sharp mind, and Western style of doing business. Their relationship began as purely business: joint meetings, presentations, business dinners. After 2 months, Khalid began to show her signs of attention that went beyond professional relations. He invited her to the most expensive restaurants, gave her jewelry, and sent huge bouquets to her office. He introduced himself to Oksana as a divorced man, the father of adult children, who had been alone for many years. To back up his words, he showed her fake divorce papers that he had had made to order. Oksana, charmed by his attention, intelligence, and charisma, believed him. She saw him not just as a billionaire, but as a kindred spirit, a strong and caring man with whom she could build a future. Their romance developed rapidly. Khalid rented a luxurious penthouse for her, with a view of the bay in the very area of Dubai Marina that he was developing. He gave her a white Mercedes G-Class worth $180,000. He gave her a monthly allowance of $15,000, explaining that he wanted her to work less and spend more time with him. For Oksana, who was used to achieving everything herself, this was unusual, but she was truly in love. She called her parents in Kiev, breathlessly telling them about her happiness, about the man who had changed her life, about her plans for the future. She believed she had found her love. 8 months after the beginning of their romance, in October 2023, Khalid made Oksana an official proposal. He promised her the lavish European-style wedding she had dreamed of. He said he wanted everything to be official so that her parents could come and share the day with them. He didn't want a traditional Islamic ceremony. He wanted a secular celebration that would match her worldview. Oksana was over the moon. She immediately called her parents in Kiev and invited them to Dubai for the ceremony, scheduled for the end of November. They bought tickets and eagerly prepared to meet their future billionaire son-in-law, whom they thought was a free man. Oksana began preparing for the wedding. She chose a dress, booked a banquet hall at the Burj Al Arab Hotel, and compiled a guest list. She had no idea that her happiness was built on lies, and that those lies had already begun to crack, threatening to collapse and bury her under their rubble. The system Khalid had built failed one evening in late October. Fatima, his first wife, was having dinner with her friends at an expensive French restaurant in Dubai's financial center. It was her free week when Khalid, according to the schedule, was with Amira. At the next table, she saw her husband. He was sitting with a young blonde woman, holding her hand and looking at her with an adoration that Fatima had not seen in his eyes for 20 years. Before her eyes, Khalid took a velvet box out of his pocket, opened it, and slipped a ring with a huge diamond onto the girl's finger. The girl laughed and kissed him. Fatima felt her world, so stable and orderly, crumbling. She did not make a scene. She silently paid the bill, left the restaurant, and drove home. The rage inside her was cold and calculating. The next morning, Fatima contacted a private detective agency. She was willing to pay any price for complete information about her rival. The detective, a former British intelligence officer, took on the case with enthusiasm. A week later, a thick report was lying on Fatima's desk. It contained everything: her name, Oksana Kovalenko, her age, place of work, address of her penthouse in Dubai Marina. Dozens of photos taken with a hidden camera. Here they are having dinner. Here they are kissing in the car. Here they are entering the entrance of her house. Copies of bank transfers to her account, documents for the Mercedes she was given, and most importantly, details of the upcoming wedding, the date, place, guest list. Khalid wasn't just going to take on another mistress. He was going to marry her, holding a public ceremony that would make this foreign woman his official wife, albeit by Western standards. Fatima realized that this was a threat not only to her status, but also to the status of his two other wives. A fourth wife, permitted under Sharia law, would be integrated into the existing system of rotation and hierarchy. But this Ukrainian woman, with her European views, public romance, and secular wedding, was a completely different phenomenon. She could become not just another wife for Khalid, but his beloved, his main wife, the one who would displace them all from their pedestal. Fatima made an unprecedented decision. She called Layla and Amira and arranged a meeting at her villa. It was the first time in 15 years that the three wives were to be in the same room outside of an official family celebration. Layla and Amira arrived, intrigued and wary. They sat in the living room, keeping their distance. Fatima silently placed the detective's report on the table. They began to look through the photos. Their first reaction was shock. Then it turned to anger. Layla, the most hot-tempered, jumped up, her face contorted with rage. "That slut! How dare he humiliate us like this!" she shouted. Amira, a lawyer, silently studied the documents, her face impassive. Fatima let them vent their initial emotions, then spoke. Her voice was calm and firm. "It's not about the affair," she said. "We all knew he had other women. The point is that he's going to marry her. In a Western ceremony. To make her a public figure. It's a slap in the face to each of us, our families, and our children. If she becomes his wife, especially one he loves, our status will be destroyed. Our maintenance will be cut. Our children's inheritance will be threatened." Layla immediately chimed in. "She must be stopped. At any cost. We must make him abandon her." Amira looked up from her papers. "It's impossible to make him," she said coldly. "He's in love like a boy. He won't give her up. Any scandal will only strengthen his resolve and make us look like jealous fools. We have no legal leverage over him." Silence hung in the room. All three women knew Amira was right. Then Fatima said what she had been thinking all week. "If we can't remove her from his life, then we must remove her from life altogether." Layla looked at her with a mixture of fear and admiration. Amira remained calm. "That's murder," she stated. In the Emirates, that's punishable by death. Only if we get caught, Fatima replied. But we won't get caught. I have connections. My brother controls the security service at the port of Jebel Ali. He knows people who can do any dirty work quietly and professionally. We'll hire someone to do it. It will look like a robbery. A foreign tourist in an expensive car fell victim to street criminals. These things happen. The police will search for them for a couple of weeks and then close the case. Amira thought about it. As a lawyer, she saw all the risks, but as a woman whose established world was under threat, she saw this as the only possible solution. How much will it cost? She asked. I spoke to my brother. $30,000. 2 hitmen. They'll do it clean, Fatima replied. 10,000 each. It's a small price to pay to secure our future. Layla didn't hesitate for a second. I agree. Amira was silent for a few minutes, weighing the pros and cons. Finally, she nodded. Okay, but everything has to be thought through to the smallest detail. No direct contact. No traces. When? We have 28 days until the wedding, said Fatima. The perfect day is the morning of the wedding itself. She'll go to the beauty salon. She'll be alone in the car. The attack will take place at dawn, on an empty road. No witnesses. Over the next 3 weeks, the 3 women, who for years had communicated only through secretaries, began to meet secretly to work out a plan. Fatima found 2 perpetrators through her brother, Pakistani men who were working illegally at the port and had criminal records. They met with them once, in an abandoned warehouse. Fatima gave them half of the money in cash, a photo of Oksana, her car's license plate number, and a detailed schedule of her movements, which she had obtained from the detective. She explained the plan. The attack should look like an attempted robbery that ended tragically. There should be only one shot, so as not to attract unnecessary attention. After the job was done, they had to burn the motorcycle and the weapon and lie low. They would receive the second half of the money after the job was done. Amir, using her legal knowledge, thought out an alibi for each of them. On the day of the murder, Fatima would be at a charity breakfast, Layla at a spa, and Amir herself at a parent-teacher conference at school. All 3 would be in public, surrounded by witnesses. They communicated via a secure messenger app using code words. Preparing for the holiday meant the murder plan. Gift meant money for the perpetrators, and guest meant Oksana. They were sure they had thought of everything, that their alliance, born of jealousy and fear, would remain a secret, and that the death of an unknown Ukrainian woman would be just another unfortunate incident in Dubai's crime reports. They underestimated only one thing: the effectiveness of the Dubai police and the ubiquitous presence of CCTV cameras in the city they considered their own. November 25th, the wedding day, began for Oksana with a sense of anticipation and happiness. She woke up in her penthouse on the 40th floor as the sun was just rising over the Persian Gulf. Her parents, who had flown in from Kiev 2 days earlier, were staying at a nearby hotel. In the evening, a ceremony at Burj Al Arab and a banquet for 200 guests awaited them. Khalid was supposed to pick her up at noon, but now, at 8:30 in the morning, she was on her way to one of the best beauty salons on Jumeirah Beach Road. She was alone in her white Mercedes G-Class. She turned on her favorite music, sang, and drummed her fingers on the steering wheel. She didn't notice the motorcycle that had followed her out of the parking lot and kept a distance of several cars behind her. At one of the traffic lights on the almost empty morning road, her car was the first in line. The motorcycle with 2 men in helmets pulled up alongside the driver's door. Oksana glanced at them and turned away, waiting for the green light. The passenger on the motorcycle took out a gun with a silencer. He didn't say a word. The first shot shattered the side window and hit Oksana in the head. The second, almost immediately after, hit her in the chest. Her head fell back against the headrest. The Mercedes remained stationary when the green light came on. The motorcycle sped off, turned into the nearest alley, and disappeared. The whole incident took no more than 10 seconds. It was recorded by 4 city cameras from different angles. The driver of the car behind the Mercedes was the first to suspect something was wrong. When the G-Class did not move when the light turned green, he honked his horn. There was no response. After overtaking the car, he saw a broken window and a motionless woman behind the wheel. He immediately called the police. A patrol car and an ambulance arrived in 5 minutes. Paramedics pronounced her dead on the spot. The police cordoned off the area, and an investigation team arrived at the scene. The investigation was led by one of Dubai's best detectives. After reviewing the camera footage, investigators obtained a clear image of the motorcycle and the killers, even though their faces were hidden by helmets. The license plate recognition system did not yield any results. The plate was fake. But one of the cameras captured a unique scratch on the motorcycle's gas tank. The police launched a large-scale search operation. All motorcycle repair shops were checked, and hundreds of bikers were questioned. 12 hours later, a patrol helicopter spotted traces of a fire in the desert, 30 kilometers from the city. The remains of a motorcycle lay on the ground. The scratch on what was left of the fuel tank matched. Investigators assumed that the killers were hiding somewhere nearby. The area was combed with dogs. A few hours later, 2 men were found in an abandoned building used by shepherds. They were the same Pakistanis hired by Fatima. They had no weapons, but experts later found microparticles of gunpowder and glass from the Mercedes window on the clothes of one of them. Only 18 hours had passed since the murder. During their first interrogation, the men confessed to everything. Faced with irrefutable evidence and the prospect of the death penalty, they decided to cooperate with the investigation in the hope of a reduced sentence. They told everything: how they were hired, how much they were paid, who was behind the order. They named Fatima, the first wife of billionaire Khalid. They did not know the names of the other 2 wives, as they had only communicated with her. The detective immediately requested financial information on Fatima's accounts. The check revealed a transfer of $10,000 to the account of one of the arrested Pakistanis. The transfer had been made 3 days earlier. This was direct evidence. Based on this information, a search warrant was obtained for all 3 villas in Emirates Hills, and Fatima was arrested. When the police arrived at Fatima's villa, she was completely calm. She was having lunch with her children, and her alibi was flawless. She had been at a charity event that morning, and dozens of people could confirm this. She denied all charges, calling them absurd. But during the search, a second unregistered phone was found in her office. Technical specialists were able to bypass the security and gain access to the Messenger app. There they found the entire history of the conspiracy. A group chat called Family Council consisted of Fatima, Layla, and Amira. Detailed discussion of the plan, code words, distribution of roles, Amira's fears, and Fatima's insistence. It was irrefutable evidence against all 3. That same evening, the police arrested Layla and Amira. The news of the arrest of the 3 wives of one of the most influential men in the country exploded across the UAE media. It was a scandal of unprecedented proportions. Khalid, who was at the police station at the time giving testimony as the fiancé of the murdered woman, learned of his wife's arrest from the detective. His reaction was a mixture of shock, disbelief, and horror. He refused to believe that the women he had lived with for decades, the mothers of his 9 children, could have done such a thing. But when he was shown printouts of their correspondence, he broke down. In the days that followed, he gave several interviews to international news agencies, including CNN. He cried in front of the camera, saying that he had lost the love of his life, that his wives, blinded by jealousy, had destroyed everything. These interviews provoked mixed reactions. Many sympathized with his grief, but others pointed out that it was his lies and bigamy that were the root cause of the tragedy. The Ukrainian government issued a strong statement demanding that the UAE authorities impose the most severe and just punishment on the murderers of their citizen. Oksana's grief-stricken parents remained in Dubai during the investigation, their interests represented by a lawyer hired by the Ukrainian embassy. They refused to communicate with Khalid. The trial began 2 months later and lasted 6 months. It became the main media event in the Middle East. Each session was covered by dozens of international media outlets. Fatima, Layla, and Amira sat in the dock wearing black abayas, their faces covered. Fatima remained silent. Layla cried. Amira calmly and methodically answered questions, trying to prove that she was against the murder, but had been forced to participate in the conspiracy under pressure from Fatima. Her lawyer presented the court with messages she had written. "This is too risky. We must find another way." But the prosecutor pointed out that after these messages, she did not go to the police and transferred her share of the money to pay for the murder. The prosecution presented the court with a whole array of evidence: confessions from the perpetrators, camera recordings, financial transactions, and, most importantly, correspondence between the 3 wives. The motive was obvious: jealousy and fear of losing status and financial well-being. In May 2024, the court handed down its verdict. The courtroom was packed. Fatima, as the organizer of the crime, was sentenced to life imprisonment. Layla, who actively supported the plan, received 25 years in prison. Amira, despite her attempts to portray herself as a passive participant, was found guilty of complicity in the murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. The court took into account her initial hesitation and the fact that she was not the initiator, but emphasized that she had taken no action to prevent the crime and had financed it on an equal footing with the others. It was one of the harshest sentences ever handed down to women from high society in the history of the UAE. 2 Pakistani perpetrators were, as expected, sentenced to death. The sentence was carried out 3 months later. After the verdict was handed down, Khalid al-Jassim immediately filed for divorce from all 3 wives. All their personal property, including villas and bank accounts, was frozen and, by court order, transferred to a trust fund for their 9 children. Khalid himself stepped down from managing his business empire, handing over the reins to his eldest son from Fatima. He virtually disappeared from public view, spending most of his time on his yacht in the Mediterranean. Oksana's parents received $8 million in compensation from Khalid. They returned to Kiev, where they buried their daughter. With the money they received, they established the Oksana Kovalenko Charitable Foundation, which helps Ukrainian women who have been victims of violence abroad. They never publicly forgave Khalid's wives or Khalid himself, considering him the main culprit of the tragedy, whose lies provoked a chain of fatal events. The case sparked widespread public debate in the UAE and throughout the Arab world about polygamy, the status of women in modern society, and the clash between traditional values and the Western way of life. The story of 3 wives who joined forces to murder a young rival became a cautionary tale about how jealousy, fear, and deception can destroy even the richest and most influential families.